Hello and welcome to the Robbies Podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League, the Champions League and the Europa League as well. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Coming off their rosy win against Newcastle, Manchester United and Ronaldo are stunned by young boys thanks to the winning goal from American Jordan Pefok. Liverpool and AC Milan renewing their old rivalry from the finals in 2005 and 2007. Man City and RB Leipzig playing out a 9-goal thriller at the Etihad. Romelu Lukaku continuing his flying start in Chelsea's win over Zenit. And we'll look ahead to the Premier League weekend headlined by Spurs v Chelsea. That's what we've got coming up in today's show. All right, Robbie Earle, back into the Champions League, my friend. Wow, lots of stuff going on, lots of stories, lots of goals. Yep. Of course, we're keeping a close eye on the Premier League teams in particular in this competition. I want to start, I guess it's probably the biggest story, Rob, given the result. Young boys have burned 2, Manchester United 1. Wow. I mean, like, a lot of excitement around Manchester United now, and Cristiano Ronaldo's game again up front. Paul Pogba played to the left-hand side. Donny van de Beek comes in, gets a rare start for them. Bruno in the hole as ever. Sancho to the right-hand side. And then pretty much you'd expect Lindelof came in for Rafael Varane. So some changes there. That's not unusual. Looking at the other lineups, Rob, for teams, they will rotate a little bit. Listen, we know those are red cards to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and he was a little touch. He was a little late, a little high. Correct call. Yeah. Shouldn't they be doing better than that, Rob, even though they had a man sent off and they were winning 1-0?
Listen, I think, Robert, and listen, that we've talked at the start of the season as though this year Ollie's going to have no excuses. Yes, he made some changes, but it's a strong enough team playing against young boys, Rob, to find a way to get a result. To find a way to get a result, whether that's making sure they get a point from the game after losing a man. If it's not, finding a way to nick a win because they've got more quality. One of the alarming things, Rob, was the manner that the game unfolded in lack of possession, lack of control of the opposition. I know they're down to 10 men, but you only have to go back to Chelsea playing Liverpool a little while ago. 10 men, well organised, well set up, can still control the game. Yeah. And my biggest takeaway, Rob, is this a blip for Ollie? Is this we've got to say down to 10 men early in the season, or is this becoming a bit of a pattern? Because if it's becoming a bit of a pattern, we're going to reach a conclusion with Ollie probably quicker than the end of the season. This football club have to start to find its way of winning Europa League finals when they're against Villarreal. Have to win games in the Champions League, Rob, against young boys. If you go down a man or not, you've got the hype tells you've got the greatest footballer currently alive in your team. There's a point where we're getting it, and Ollie shouldn't be only criticised on this, and we don't talk about any other managers, because it is a part where he's Manchester United manager. So for Manchester United fans, they all love him. For everybody else, they all hate Man United and probably hate Ollie. And so it's one or the other. It's famine or feast for Man United. But my takeaway from the other day was, Rob, the disappointment in the way that the team couldn't control young boys having lost a man.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. I mean, first of all, I want to start on positives. And Cristiano Ronaldo, again, continues to look super sharp. He's in the right place. He's kind of hanging out the back post there, gets good contact on the ball, scores the goal, does his kind of job. Such a hungry player, Rob, for goals. And I just made a quick note that he's reinvented himself, Rob, hasn't he, as a number 9 now. He's an out-and-out striker. He's playing on the shoulder of the last defender. He's intelligent for the most part with his runs. I just thought he looked sharp again, Rob, and his hunger to win continues to shine through. Okay, Jadon Sancho, he's just off it. He's just off it, and he gets subbed out of the game before half-time, played on the right-hand side in this game. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, and some managers, I'm thinking of Jurgen Klopp a little bit here, sometimes new players coming into the league, Rob, he's very, very careful when he brings them in. It's like, well, when is he going to, you know, he's done it with quite a few players where he's just been very careful. There was talk about Konate playing for Liverpool, could have done with a game, but no, not yet. I remember Naby Keita when he first came up.
Didn't he?
It took a little bit of time. It happened the same with Fabinho, where it took a little bit of time for him to come into the side. So, you know, but he's gone straight in there and he's just looked a little bit off it. So again, another example, Rob, that he's not ready to show United what he can do. And that's kind of like...
What do you do in that situation, though, Rob? Because it's a bit of a difficult one for Ollie, isn't it? If I don't play him, he's 100 million. Obviously, the press will turn. People will not. If you do play him and the form continues, he's going to get stick anyway. So that's a tough one for Ollie. He's got to kind of work out.
I know exactly what I'd do, Rob. I'd bring him out. I'd bring him out of the team right now, because what the worry is, Rob, you keep playing him and he keeps giving the ball away, and those groans from the fans that we saw the last game at Old Trafford, like that
and
starts to get
his
a
teammates,
thing.
by the way, and your team, by the way.
It's not. You don't want to be like, you don't want fans giving the opportunity to disbelieve so early. Bring him out of the side. You got Lingard, you got a few others there that can play in a wider position. You can play. I mean, there's Pogba. I mean, there's a ton of options. That's what I would do, mate. I wouldn't want to try and play a young kid through this little bit of a difficult period, unless the manager's seeing stuff that, you know, he's
training and things.
He's looking great. It'll come good. But I guess we'll find out that. And then just onto the tactical side of things, Rob. And as you said there, they're 1-0 up. They're down to 10 men on the 36th minute. At half time, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does the uber safe move by bringing on Rafael Varane. So he's got his three centre backs that you might expect. Dallow's on, who is a right back, plays at right wing back. Luke Shaw is a left wing back. To really kind of like a couple of things to accept. I mean, it's good atmosphere there, by the way. I know it's a young person, but it was good little atmosphere. But that's the safest thing he could have done. And for you to lose the game and concede 2 goals in a safe manner, that has got to be a worry. Now, whether individually, I tend to think it's more of team defending and of team shape and defending, Rod, in terms of that. That's not good enough. Like, they should be able to see out against a young boys team that I know they're at home and a little bit fired up, but with your best defenders in there, some tons of experience. Can you explain to me, Rob, what's lacking, why they didn't do it?
Well, you've got a back 5, so you expect basically an extra body in there. You've got your experienced defenders in there with Varane and Maguire and Lindelof. So you're expecting to say, a bit like Chelsea when they go with the 3, then they'll do it. But they don't play it in the manner that Chelsea do. The midfield press. You've got a midfield, Rob, of Pogba, Bruno, Fred. Who else was? Van der Beek was off by that.
He was subbed out at half time.
Yeah, he was off by that point. Yeah, but you haven't really got a midfield that's designed to protect you, to win some balls, to nick some triggers, and then go and play. So you're basically carrying a midfield in front, an attacking midfield in front of you, with a centre forward we know doesn't do any real press from the front. Yeah. 3 centre backs who, didn't look like they'd done a lot of work together. So all of a sudden, Robbie doesn't look disjointed. I didn't know whether the 4 and keeping some structure, maybe 4-4-1 or 4.
Yeah, might have been
worked better. Yeah. But again, listen, these are the things he takes. He's manager. He makes a call. I just felt it looked imbalanced to me, Rob. It didn't look like they were at any time in control of the game. And this is young boys. This isn't some of the superpowers. And these are the kind of games where questions will be continually asked of Ollie. Is he the right kind of manager in these kind of situations to see this group through?
Is it, Rob, going to be a team? And listen, I accept that we've wanted this Man United squad and team to get on the front foot. They've got tons of great attacking players, and let's be expansive. Let's go for it. Let's score a ton of goals. And they're looking that's the way they're going to go. Is it sensible to do that? I'm feeling like it. Let me put it this way. When I see Chelsea playing, they look like a unit that's attacking and a unit that's, when needed, is defending. I think Manchester United in general are a team going forward, and they're a separate team at the back. There's it's almost like two teams. There's two games going on. There's the attacking game going on at the other end when all the front players are doing their thing, and then there's a defensive game going on without the front guys helping in the defensive game. Do you know what I mean? They seem to be separated a little bit. And again, it's early yet, of course that, but there's so many great talent going forward. Defensively, they need the talent to help. They need the talent to help defensively. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I take your point, because I was going to say, it seems to me that, team going forward, and I sense there's a will for a team to defend, but I just don't think those players are made up in the same way. Have got the same kind of thought. Now, whether that needs to be coached in, and whether that's something the manager's got to stress more, that we've got to be better without the ball, because that's what all the best teams are now. It's not just about possession,
right?
But they have too many players, Rob, who really just come alive when we get the ball and we want to play, and that's probably something he's got to work on. You can still have great players who can still work hard. Exactly. And that's a bit he's got to get across. And they've got to enjoy doing that hard work as well. When I watch Chelsea doing it, Rob, they look like, it gives them a confidence that they're not going to concede a goal. We'll get to Chelsea. They scored one goal a night. They weren't very good and win a game. Yes, they had 11-11, but we've seen them against Chelsea. We saw them against Liverpool where they kept a 1-1. So that's where Ollie's got to develop this group and go on. And the numbers, Rob, are interesting. And I know you can make stats as you want, but in 11 Champions League games now, he's lost 7.
Yeah.
That's not good enough for Manchester United.
No. I just finished up, Rob. I don't want to go on about this, but to continue your point, you're absolutely right. The key to this manager right now, and we all know we're going to find out the answers this season of if he's the man that can coach his team to success, is this. He's got to get the likes of Greenwood, Sancho, Pogba, Rashford, the attacking midfield players. He's got to get them to defend well. He's got to get them to support their fullbacks. He's got to get Paul Pogba, if he plays in the middle, to track his runners and make tackles. If he doesn't get those attacking midfield players to protect a back four, they will continue to concede goals and drop. If you went back and looked at all the bad results in the Champions League last year, get knocked out into I'm sure they're not a strong defensive team. And for that to happen with the talent they've got, and I agree with the talent they've got going forward, those players have to understand the importance of working really hard, like your Ryan Giggs used to do, like your David Beckham used to do, like your Paul Scholes used to do. Like the whole of that midfield worked incredibly hard with the ball and without the ball, Rob. Is that not the key? Because the talent is obviously there. But if they don't want to defend and do the other side of it, they're going to get caught out like they did again in this match.
Yeah, and I go back to, it's becoming a bit of a phrase in English football now, and it's a lot of the foreign managers coming in, but they say the team's got to be able to suffer and come through it. And that's what Manchester United, the suffering's without the ball.
Yeah, they don't suffer much, do they? They don't suffer much.
No, and that's my point. They're good, then they're good. They blast away Leeds, they blast away Newcastle, and they're good. Yeah. But when it's a suffer, when it's a 1-0 away, when it's 1-1 against Young Boys, are we prepared then to do what that is required? That's the question. I think that he's got to work that out, Rob. He's got to get a plan for those things. Yeah, tough game away to West Ham, I think, at the weekend as well, which will be another little test for them against a very good David Moyes team at 7 a.m. Eastern Time on NBC SN. So, just a first little question mark to Ollie. There's going to be some, Rob. You sign Ronaldo, but you get all the media and you get all the attraction, but you also get the spotlight. And they've got to be able to handle that for good and for bad going forward. Yeah. So we'll see how that one goes. Should we move it on, mate?
Yes,
to the other game yesterday. Chelsea Football Club, very different in terms of what the team set up, what you expect, what you get from the team.
Most demanded from the players, I would say, as well, by the manager.
1-0 win. Interesting, Robin. I just want to make the point before the game kicked off, and I saw that the awards were handed out. There was Tuchel, there was Jorginho, there was Mendy, there was Kante, almost for what they've done and what we've seen. Great players, great individuals, a great manager who's come in. And then my first thing in my head as I was watching that is God, they've got a good group, haven't they? And then you think they've just banged in Lukaku on top of that, and you start thinking, this is serious time now for this football club again, isn't it? It's about really competing in everything for everything when you look at the squad and what they've done.
Yeah, and they made some changes, Rob. Just looking at the team that played, Lukaku started up front. It was Ziyech and Mason Mount behind. Yeah. I mean, the midfield is a little different, Kovacic and Jorginho, but they got such a good squad now. Rob. Yeah. Reece James on the right-hand side, Alonso continued. Just a few things I want to point out here. I thought Mason Mount struggled. First half in particular. Second half, he came onto a bit of a game. Yeah. But, just kind of, I don't know whether
things didn't quite work for him, did they?
Yeah, a little. It's been a few games now. He's been a little quiet. I mean, we know he's a brilliant player, and he's played so many games with the national team, etc., and the Euros. So I just think it's one to keep an eye on. And the football, Rob, the first half, there's no shots on target from Chelsea Football Club, and of course, almost total control. What we're used to seeing with Thomas Tuchel with possession and with territory. But again, I'm looking at the same things, Rob. There's a couple of backward passes. The opponents drop all the way in. And you got this situation. All right, then, Chelsea. How are you going to find a way through? Now, of course, second half, that's how you find a way through, Rob, where last year they might have had 0-0 or really struggled. And they, of course, have got a guy that can head the ball, which they haven't really had. Brilliant cross in from Azpilicueta, tremendous header from Lukaku, 1-0, and that's enough, and that's the difference he's going to make. But it's just, I was just watching the first half, Rob, and I thought, could Chelsea, in whichever league, but thinking about the Premier League, could there be games when their football control means that people drop back deep and create this low block? Yeah. Are they going to struggle in some games to score and win those? I know Lukaku's different, but is he going to be that? Is he going to be that different for that?
Well, it's an interesting point, and I think it's something. I think we talked about. I think it was a transfer deadline show, or maybe it was a podcast. But I've said, Rob, they've got to get goals from other people around the team. Your Mason Mount is one of them. Your Ziyech is one of them. You have your Werner, who we see sitting on the bench. Those guys, Rob, have got to be getting 6, 7, 8 goals plus across competitions. You know, the big guy, 4-4, outstanding, lovely little move, great ball, gets his header, a brilliant addition. But these days it ain't going to happen for him. These days he's going against 3 centre-backs who sit deep. Which of those midfield players? And it's really disappointing Christian Pulisic's not fit right now. Because his change of speed, his little dynamic play just underneath somebody like Lukaku, who, if they're going deep, is going to leave that space, might be an area he could really go and exploit. And I think Chelsea's challenge is to get enough of those midfield players, who are all technically very good, all can receive and accept the ball, but who's going to get the goals? Who's got that little bit of hunger to keep getting in the box? I've seen it from Conor Gallagher, who's one of their kids, who's on loan at Palace. Keeps getting in the box, keeps making runs. Don't quite see enough of that from those midfield players. Habits maybe is the point in difference. I think he could grow into one, but the others have got to make sure they can contribute their goals as well.
I mean, it's going to be hard from midfield, Rob, isn't it? Because you've got Kovacic and Jorginho or Kante or whatever. Yeah. For the most part, are going to kind of hold. Yeah. Then you've got wing backs who are going to be kind of out in positions.
I think they should get a few goals, Rob.
Yeah,
I think wing backs should 3, 4, 5. Should, Alonso particularly on that side. But those two underneath the striker, they've got to be getting somewhere close to double.
Yeah, when you think about the Liverpool front players, Rob, we know the goals they get from wider areas. Of course, a little bit of a different system, but still 3 up front. This is still 3 up front, so you're absolutely right. I think it's a good point, Rob. Also with Pulisic, you know what he's like. He's a little nick it round the corner. He's a little give and go, a little 1-2. I mean, he's got one of the best in the business in Lukaku to invite the ball into his feet. Yeah, it's a good shout, and so I think it's a good shout, and I think that will be interesting when he comes back. But no, I mean, this is Chelsea, and the control gives them. They give up few chances because they have such great control. One word of credit: Antonio Rudiger, Rob, made a brilliant goal-saving tackle. Yeah, a little bit before the Lukaku goal. So he is. I'm reading today that he's still not signed a contract yet, and I think there's a lot of clubs that would like him. I think he's a brilliant defender, Rudiger. So that was one chance they gave up. But other than that, the control, the possession, the territory means that they just don't concede many shots at their goal. So 1-0 is absolutely fine.
So I just wrote, my sort of overline on them is that Chelsea have a safety position of control that many others don't have. And if they get a goal, there's a confidence within the group that I think they can keep it, which is on. And I just wanted to mention, Rob, I just thought there's one guy, well, there's two things I want to mention. The first one is Edward Mendy. I think it was his 50th competitive game for Chelsea. He's had 29 clean sheets. And do you know what I like about him, Rob, is there's no drama. There's no histrionics. There's no drama. You don't really see him hammering defenders. You don't see him remonstrating with people. Just gets on with his job.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, he came out for a ball that went wide, just went wider late on, and he was brave on it. Didn't have to make the save, but came out brave. And I just think when the Kepa situation was up in the air, is he good enough? Is he not? Goals were going in. There was all this kind of thing. That's gone now with Mendy. And I just think he deserves a little bit of credit for that because
he's good, isn't he? He's a good goalkeeper.
He's a good goalkeeper. There's another little point I wanted to go to, Rob, and certainly we're not experts on this situation, and it's something I just wanted to touch on our podcast because we've talked a lot about race and gender and things in the game, and it was interesting. Ben Chilwell came to mind, Rob, and I've just been kind of watching things behind the scenes with him, and his manager came out last week and said something quite interesting. He said that he's mentally exhausted. So I started doing a bit of reading, and basically he got. He signed for big money coming at Chelsea. He's going to be Frank's left back. Alonso's out the scene. Things change when Tuchel comes in. Alonso gets in, keeps his place. Chilwell went with England in the summer, didn't get a kick. Hasn't played since the Champions League final last season where he played or came on, I think, in that game. First minutes this week. And it kind of got me a little bit thinking around the whole mental health issue of players and sports people. And in a week, Rob, where was it Anna Radikova won the US Open?
Yeah, amazing.
Remember the summer? She pulled out of Wimbledon with some mental health issues. Simone Bailey, we were doing the Olympics. Yeah. Big one of the biggest stories of the Olympics, Simone Bailey. Just this thing of sports people and mental health, Rob. And I was kind of thinking, back in our day, no one would be allowed to do that. Nobody thought about those things. There wasn't the sophistication in the clubs. There wasn't the time or the effort by clubs. It was like, get on with it. And I think during my time, there's probably a few players I've played with who had some mental health issues, and it either got brushed off or they got moved on. They weren't seen as strong enough in things. And I just think, fortunately, the game has moved on. Fortunately, people are starting to understand that a sportsman with all the riches from the outside, everything going in their favour, can have issues, can have problems. It seems that Chelsea are working with Ben Chilwell, and I would think other people are working. Just wanted your thought on it, Rob. And, I was thinking probably for me, and we're very different people, and people know us as two Robbies, and we go about our lives in different ways. But I remember when I finished football, and I'm not one of those who I think would ever get depressed in the manner that some would in that. But it challenged me when I finished play. And I remember thinking to myself that a couple of times I wasn't feeling as great about myself and I remember keeping busy. I went into media. I went back to college for a year. I did things, Rob, and got myself out of it and moved on. Got my second life. And fortunately, we've been working in the media. But I wonder just with you, with your career or at the end, have you had moments?
Well, I think it's really interesting, mate. Really interesting. And I totally agree about in our era, it's like you don't come out. It's like coming out. Like you would never admit to struggling mentally. I would say this, and again, I feel very blessed that this happened to me. I grew, and I think you did too, Rob. I think what you have to grow, and it's not easy to grow in professional football, is a thick skin. Now, because people will never understand unless you're in that situation when you got 35,000 staring at you and you make a mistake and there's an ooh, or there's a boo, or there's a friend of mine came out once. We run out at our home stadium. They read out his name, read out everybody's name on the tannoy, and everybody cheers and claps. His name gets read out and there's a massive boo. and he ends up sarcastically clapping the. I'm like, people will never understand what it's like to get in your car. You come out of your stadium, you've lost a little bit. Maybe you've had some stick off the fans. You drive home, you've had a terrible game. You're worried about your future. You're worried about your contract. It is a lot of mental strain. Again, thankfully, I handled it, Rob, but I totally understand people find that difficult, particularly at Ben Chilwell was at a national level. Simone Biles, it was the US athlete. Her level of scrutiny, Rob, is insane. I can't. I'll tell you this right now. If I was on social media, I can't imagine what it's like on social media, Rob.
We didn't have to deal with that.
I'm telling you right now, I would not go on it. And I'd say this as well. If I played well and we won a game for Middlesbrough, whatever, a big game, and I played well, I'm reading the newspapers. I'm clipping out the headlines. If we didn't, I got dragged off and I wasn't good. I'm not even reading it because I know there's going to be stick there.
No papers.
I am not reading it. So I had a few little mechanisms of getting to grips of that. But I think it's a great point to bring up, Rob. And I tell you, people again. Is so much pressure, not only from fans, but what you put under yourself as well to make the first team, to get that new contract, to get a move away, to play for the national team, whatever it is. And when things don't go well, wow, it can feel like the world's on you. I mean, just in my retirement part of it, I just felt, Rob, my body was broken at that point. It was a good time for me to retire. I did think about other things. I'd done coaching license. I did a few other things, and I was kind of excited for my afterlife. And of course, moving to the US was a huge step, but an exciting step. And thankfully, through a little bit of coaching, through some contacts, and now, of course, ESPN and now NBC, I've had a wonderful experience in my post-career time. But that I'm not, everybody's not as lucky as us, I guess. And I think it's great that you bring it up, and I think it is something that is a massive thing for a lot of professional players that most of them, Rob, will probably never admit to, and go down other roads of whether it's drinking or gambling or other things to get their mind off the pressure of being a professional footballer. So, it's a good shout, mate. And I'm with you. I'm with you on it, because it's not easy for some people that can't kind of not let them allow it to really upset them. All the time.
Fortunately, I think, mate, we're in a time now in sport and with our life that it is acceptable to say you're not feeling well. It is acceptable to say you need some help.
Absolutely, it is. Thank goodness it is. Yeah,
and that's whether you're a sportsman or you're anybody listening to our podcast. Everybody tells me that it's important that you talk to someone, family, friends, somebody within your network. Talk to people. Tell them that you've got issues and work it out. So I just saw you just came back. Ben Chilwell, who's had a difficult sort of last 12 months when you think he's gone from big money, signed for Chelsea, everything's there for him, and then all of a sudden it doesn't.
Just another example, Robert Chelsea, Christian Pulisic admitted this a couple of months ago or something. Absolutely. He struggled a little bit. That he's seeing a good counsellor like that. That's absolutely fine, and hopefully
and that's progress, Rob. That's progress in the game.
Maybe Christian Pulisic can, if Ben's struggling a little bit, maybe they can communicate or help each other a little bit. Yeah. It's
a good shout, mate. Okay, let's move on back to the football, because we had a great Wednesday of Champions League football. Now, it was one of those days where Liverpool were playing and Man City were playing at the same time, so we both decided to take a game. So I got Liverpool against the mighty AC Milan, a game with lots of history and tradition. And I've got to be honest, mate, this one didn't let you down as well. It was a Liverpool team. Everybody was interested in the lineup. A few changes. Joe Gomez came in for Virgil van Dijk. Van Dijk got a rest. Naby Keita came into midfield. Divock Origi got a start instead of Sadio Mane up top. So a little bit of rotation for Jurgen Klopp. And he talked about he's going to need to rotate the squad, and he trusts in the players that he brought in. And you couldn't have got a more contrasting first 45 minutes, Rob. Liverpool started like the best version of Liverpool we saw in title winning day. I mean, they were at it, mate. I think it was 13 attempts in the first 15 minutes, 6 shots on target. They flew at AC Milan and managed to get their first goal through Trent Alexander-Arnold. It was a Tomori goal, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, was excellent on the day. Gets the goal. They're up. They're flying. They're still continuing to go forward. I thought they got what looked like a lucky penalty. It was a handball. Defender's hand was away from his body, but it didn't look that natural. It was one of those that definitely could have gone either way. On-field referee gave it. Mo Salah takes the penalty kick. Goalkeeper saves and saves the rebound. And all of a sudden, we're still 1-0. But I think it was one of those where you're watching that game, Rob, and you're thinking, Liverpool are going to, there'll be 3 by half-time, and this is done and dusted. And as ever in European football, AC Milan sort of weathered the storm, stayed in there. Goalkeeper made a couple of big saves, and 2 goals in less than 2 minutes just before half-time completely changed the outlook of the game. And Milan went in 2-1 at half-time, Rob, and Anfield was stunned. It went a little bit quiet, and it was a little bit like, what? And I kind of guess what I take from today, Rob, was, question mark, Jurgen, question mark, Liverpool. And Jurgen Klopp talked about it after the game. It was so important his team came through this, Rob. 2-1 down, could have gone a different way. Milan had a goal chalked off just after half-time, and then Liverpool started to play again, got themselves back into the game, and managed to win. End up winning 3-2 at Jordan Henderson. Beautiful strike.
I just see some little highlights,
reminiscent of Stevie G days back as captain leading his football club. But I think the biggest thing that came out to me, Rob, is that Liverpool at it, atmosphere buzzing back in Anfield. I think first European game for over 18 months. Flying doesn't go well for them. Get a little kind of bloody nose, suffer a little bit, what we talked about. Yeah. And found a way to come out with some players who haven't been always regular. Divock Origi had a good role to play, Rob. Still think that it could be a put. Yeah, he made Salah's goal with a lovely clip ball over to Mo Salah. His build-up play was good. He looked like he gives them something different. And Klopp said after, he trains hard. He's been good around the squad. There's times it looks like he's going to be out the door, but might have a little role to play. Still. And I think, my biggest takeaway from the game is Liverpool find a way to win again and took the suffering that they had to take and moved on, got to another gear again, led by the captain, get the win, get the 3 points, and it all kind of feels a lot better than it did at half-time.
The one player, Rob, I was just interested in because I saw little bits on social media and I saw the goals and highlights, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I am fascinated by Trent.
Yeah,
I think Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's such a talent at right back, and we know where he's slight, which I think that's getting better. His defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Just give me a little report update on him because I think he is in absolute peach condition and looks $1 million.
Whatever happened to him in the summer, whatever criticism that came, whatever that he's not playing in his favourite position for the national team and played in midfield and some saying he's this, he's that, he's other. Talking about him, we're talking about mental strength. There's a mental strength to this young man that's admirable. Because I tell you what, every time he can have the ball, he puts himself in a position to receive it. Doesn't matter. I tell you what he did. The one thing that stood out for me that many people might not have seen in the game, it was probably late 70th minutes where he's played a 1-2. Him and Mo Salah down that side, by the way. I'll come down in a minute. Is outstanding. I mean, out of this world. But he plays a 1-2, gets the ball on the outside, does one of his crosses, and it was one of them where a defender actually did a good job of blocking it. The ball hit Trent and went out for a goal kick. So we're like nearly 8 minutes in the game. He's run 60 yards to try and cross it for a teammate. I'll tell you what he did, Rob, which we haven't always seen. And I know we once or twice last season, I think it was, it said, Trent. He picked himself up and he sprinted, Rob, like you've never seen to get himself back in position.
Yeah.
Like
he did that last weekend, Rob. There's a
I'm a right back, and I've got to get back in my right back spot to defend. And it was like in his head, something's changed. And I'll tell you what else I saw when he got the first goal, because it was lovely interplay between him and Mo Salah on the right-hand side. And when Salah scored that, there's a little rapport going on between these two. remember that Mo had said at the weekend, he's told Trent he's got to help him for more assists so he can get his goals, etc. So there's a little I just wonder if Mo took him under his wing a little bit. There's a little kind of real friendly thing going on between them that I like. I think it's important between fullback and winger. There was maybe a time where I wouldn't say they don't get on because they're teammates and they've won titles, etc. But sometimes you don't appreciate people as well. Sometimes with a teammate, it looks like something changed, Rob. Just little things you observe.
Well, it's interesting, Rob, because we were going to do a breakdown on Mo Salah in the last Liverpool home game, and one part of that breakdown was Mo Salah sprinting 50, 60 yards to cover Trent Alexander-Arnold. It was in a higher position. Now, if there's something a little bit more between the two of them, that's the sort of way it
plays out, doesn't it?
If I play with you in midfield, right, and we don't really like each other, we don't really cover
them, do you?
You don't really cover them. If we're great mates and we get on well, like it's just a natural situation. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, I just think, I certainly picked out Alexander-Arnold last year for a lot of kind of errors and look, another goal down his side. And I thought it was justified. But right now, cool. He's showing, and by the way, in terms of England, if he's playing at this level, he's got to start for England, Robbie. I don't care about how good Kyle Walker is defensively. That talent you need in the national team for all sorts of reasons. So anyway, just wanted to check in on him.
Yeah, Trent was in great form. Fabinho, I thought, Rob does another great job in there. There was a spell when they got a little bit overrun in midfield when Milan got on the ball, but Fabinho's in good nick. The captain is more important than many people think. Not just the goal, just his drive and how he talks. And Divock Origi, Rob, was my other one. Just, you know what, we maybe overlooked it a little bit. Did well, might be somebody who comes in. Full house at Anfield as well. So good day for Liverpool. As ever, classic game against Milan, and they get the three points. And I look forward to the weekend.
All right, my game. Wow. Manchester City 6, RB Leipzig 3. Wow. I mean, talk about two teams, Rob, that were unable to defend very well, but maybe more importantly, weren't that bothered about the defensive side of the game. Now, the first goal is an example. Nathan Ake is allowed to have a free run, right? So if you imagine yourself about penalty spot further back, and there's guys in zones on the 6-yard box, and I'm going to just come in and have a little charge up, have a little run up. I'll benefit from the ease of a running jump. Boom, over the top of the defending player. Wow, that was easy. 1-0 up. All sorts of stuff. One of the craziest own goals you've ever seen. Leipzig defender kind of trying to track it out. As a cross comes in, he kind of hits it on the side of his head, goes in for 2-0. I mean, Riyad Mahrez scored. I'm just going down the scorers. Riyad Mahrez gets his goal. That was a penalty, wasn't it? Riyad Mahrez. Jack Grealish.
I saw that. That's his first goal, didn't it?
Yeah, first European Champions League goal for Jack Grealish. Cancelo scores a screamer later on the second half, and Gabriel Jesus scores in the second half late at 85th minute. Christian Nkunku, this 23-year-old, scores a hat trick for Leipzig, Rob, and still loses by three goals.
Only two other players. Robbie Mustoe, I've got a tester for you. Only two other players have scored a hat trick against Pep's teams.
Oh, I have no idea. Only two other players. Has he?
Lionel Messi's one. Who's the other? Playing in the Premier League. Scored 2 hat tricks against Manchester City, I believe. Come on, Robbie Mustoe.
Play 2 hat tricks against him in what competition? Did you say?
I think Premier League level.
I don't know.
Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy.
Wow. So, I mean, this kid, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so.
Before you go, mate, I just got to go 1 point because you made some points there.
Yeah.
Two teams not bothered with defending. Yeah. Can you just revisit that for me for Pep? That doesn't quite feel right.
Well, Rodri was the holding player, right? So he's the only one of the front 6 that really feels any sort of need to defend. Am I right? You have Bernardo Silva one side, Kevin De Bruyne the other side. You have Mahrez, Grealish, and Torres. And when they're going forward, they look great. But again, defensively, Rodri's the only one. And he didn't do it very well. Dragged off later on. Fernandinho comes on, much better, whatever age he is, mid-30s, Fernandinho. João Cancelo scores a streamer of a goal, Robbie Earle, but again, not a great defender. So you missed that with Kyle Walker not being there. Zinchenko on the other side's okay. And Nathan Ake came in, so there's no Stones with Ruben Diaz. It's just, if you want to go toe-to-toe with Manchester City, right, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Like RB Leipzig. But good teams won't really want to go toe-to-toe. They'll be strong defensively and they'll counter and they'll score against Manchester City. It's something that almost, they were definitely better last season because they conceded fewer goals. Stones and Diaz, player of the season, etc., etc., etc. But it's still an issue, I think, Rob, for Pep's philosophy. And listen, there's some of the best players came in and have been out a little while. Kevin De Bruyne has been out a long time, started. Phil Foden came into the game. Sterling came in. Jesus came on. So the bench is still great. But his philosophy is the same, Rob, where it's like really, really open, really, really expansive. And just defensively, they give you looks. They gave Leipzig lots of looks. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, is that ever going to change, Rob? I mean,
I saw a couple of shots, Rob. Again, I was obviously watching this game, and then I turned over, and there was a couple of clips of Pep hammering. It looks like it was having to go at Mahrez and having to go at Grealish about, I don't know if he said defending, if he said positioning, which is very Pep. I just wonder, like, is he? They're not going to win if they don't have attention to defending, Rob. They don't win this. They don't win this thing. They don't win this thing.
I know. And that's, I mean, listen, they won the game 6-3. They won the game 6-3, right? Absolutely. And we could spend the next 10 minutes saying how really good they are going forward. Ferran Torres is the number 9. I like him. He's decent up there, but it's a position they should be better. It's a position they should be better. Of course, we know what they tried to do in the summer with Harry Kane. They scored 6 goals, right? And I don't think he even scored, did he? I don't think he scored.
No.
So it's, I mean, City is City, and they're fun to watch. It's just like, wow, they give you so many spaces to play in, and Leipzig scored 3 goals, and others will continue to do that. So not much else really, Rob. They got PSG next, by the way, September 28th, PSG away. You know, it was Kevin De Bruyne's first start of the season. It was good news for Phil Foden coming into the game. But again, my main headlines here, as I look down my notes, is the defensive focus is still not what it should be. But listen, 3 points, they'll be happy. It's just the way it goes.
Really interesting after the game, Rob. I don't know if you saw some of the quotes that are coming out from Pep, but he said, "I'd like more people to come to the game on Saturday. We will be tired. Southampton are dangerous. I invite all people to come to watch our 3 p.m. game and support them." So Man City, Southampton, that's 10 a.m. Eastern time on USA for all our American viewers. But Pep just sort of putting one out there that he wants, the fans to back them in the way. Maybe I don't know. Is he looking at some of the other teams and thinking it isn't quite the same?
It could actually be thinking that, Rob. I mean, you think about the vibe at Man United, at Chelsea, and you just described it at Liverpool. Man City lack that. I mean, they're a brilliant team. Do they need that, Rob? Do they need a bit more excitement, a bit more fire from the connection with the fans, or is that just not really going to happen?
Their football is so dominant, Rob. It's almost like a backhanded compliment. Their football's so dominant. It's so that they kick the ball so much, it doesn't change hands so much. It's almost like the crowd don't need to get involved as much. You feel some teams like Liverpool, the crowd help them play at another level. With City, their control and their possession is so good. It almost makes like the crowd sit there. You almost get lulled into this sort of security.
We're good. Like we're good and we have the ball. I'm almost, dare I say, a little boring, Rob, to be so good in possession and
No, I think bullying's the wrong word. We shouldn't say, but this guy is brought something different to the Premier League, and we appreciate it over the time.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. We
they get used to it then. We just got used to the dominance, I suppose.
Absolutely. But important game at the Premier League at the weekend. Let's just go through a few of the other results this week in the Champions League. A couple of Barcelona 0, Bayern Munich 3. So two of the big boys. Certainly Barcelona not anything the side of the word. Bayern Munich getting that one done. I was interested in Bruges 1, PSG 1. Mr. Mustoe, I believe all three of the big boys played. Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. And
football's more than just superstar players.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. I looked at the Dortmund. I didn't see it, but I looked at the goal scores. Dortmund.
Yeah, he scored one, made one, didn't he? Jude Bellingham. Apparently, he was outstanding again.
Yeah, Erling Haaland scored again.
Erling Haaland, yeah.
So that's good victory for them. Real Madrid beat Inter Milan. Big game, big teams there. Real Madrid finding a way. I think Real Madrid maybe not quite as affected by stuff as Barcelona. It looks like Barcelona are way off the pace, and Real Madrid are not in great fettle, but they're a little bit less affected. Juventus without Ronaldo, Robbie Earle go to Malmo, and win 3-0. And
5 goals for Ajax, my friend, and 4 goals for guess who?
Amazing. A former West Ham striker
who didn't look like he had 4 goals in him in his career. Sebastian Haller. How many times have we seen players leave this league and go on and there was a Southampton player went to Ajax, didn't there? The left-sided who did a good job for him. Do you remember? Tadic.
I do.
Tadic. Tadic when I left the league. It was okay at Southampton. It looked really good, and it looks like I actually got a team set where LA gets 4 goals. I think it was his debut in the Champions League, but good win for them as well. Just going to head it moving forward, mate. Just before we close up, it's a big weekend of Premier League football this weekend, but none bigger than Sunday, 11:30 Eastern Time on Peacock Premium. Big London derby, Tottenham versus Chelsea. Spurs losing their last game against Palace. Chelsea continuing to go well, won the last one against Villa and won midweek. How we're looking, what we're thinking. Can Chelsea go and continue to get things done?
I think they can, Rob. We know the squad's a really, really good squad. Interested in whether Lukaku's going to play every game. I mean, he's not going to play every game. There'll be some point where you have to take a bit of a break. I don't think he'll take one in this one at home against. Oh, it's actually away, isn't it? It's away.
It's just Spurs at home,
And Spurs had a shocker. Their last outing in the Premier League. So I think everybody, as the odds here, saying Chelsea will be favourites. It's just what have Spurs got in reply, Rob? Is this going to be? Is this going to be an exciting season for Nuno? Can he keep a little bit of momentum going by winning this game? Because they kind of started off tremendously well the first 3 games. They have a terrible setback in the last match. I just think Chelsea, the way that they can win in different ways, would be favourites. But I am excited to see Spurs. I like what they've looked like in the first 3 games. I like the manager. A little bit different with some of the players they've got. I wonder if we're going to see Christian Romero, isn't it, the new centre back?
I was going to say, because they're struggling for centre-backs, aren't they? Dyer got injured. Tanganga got sent off. They've had a couple of in quarantine, haven't they? I think just allowed back, maybe get a chance to play. So we could see them. We got some odds on this one. PointsBet Sportsbook have got Chelsea as favourites to win at -130. Obviously, the away team. Spurs to win at +340 and the draws at +265. So our friends at PointsBet Sportsbook believe that Chelsea have the chance. And just on that one, just before we move forward, mate, Kane or Lukaku? Who you at?
What do you mean, Kane or Lukaku? Give me a scenario. Give me in what scenario?
The scenario is that before Chelsea took Lukaku, Daniel Levy phoned them up and said, for the same money,
oh wow!
I'll let you have H. I'll let him come across the capital, and you can have him. What do you do, Mr. Mustoe? Plug and play Kane? Or
I think I'm going for Lukaku. I think I'm going for the return of Lukaku.
Yeah,
but it's a blimmin' tight one. What about you?
Ooh. I think I'm with you, Lukaku. I think Lukaku's a better fit for how they play and what they need. I'm not sure Harry coming deeper in that team and is as productive as Lukaku can stretch the other way and do down the side and his joining play. I mean, Harry's build-up play is good, but just think that the raw athletic speed and power of Lukaku suits Chelsea with his finishing quality that he's got.
What if?
No,
What if Daniel Levy says? Oh no, what am I thinking here? What if Manchester City have the chance to buy Kane or Lukaku? So I'm giving a different scenario now.
This summer gone.
City could get Kane or Lukaku.
Kane, plug in and play. Built for that team. Different setup with the wide players with the midfield dropping in there.
Making some assistant passes and stuff. So it's different, isn't it? It's a different kind of scenario.
It depends on which team and we'll look at those two. But time to wrap it up, my friend. In a bit of a mixed bag for the 4 Premier League teams in Europe. 3 wins, 1 loss, 11 goals scored, 7 goals conceded. Champions League's off and running after a great start again. We'll turn our attention this weekend to our bread and butter of the Premier League. Look out for our next podcast. That's on Sunday, September the 19th, when we'll look back at a full round of match week 5 and that big London derby. Spurs host Chelsea, Kane v Lukaku, Nuno versus Tuchel. But for now, I'm Earle, he's Mustoe, together with the 2 Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy. It's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches and much more.